Welcome to the podcast where we take a deep dive into the stories behind construction business leaders. We will share how they got started, how they found success, and the lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Eric Fortenberry. Welcome to Builder Stories. Welcome, everyone. I'm here today with Bob Turner, the owner of Turner Builders in Windham, Maine. Super excited to have Bob on today. You know, I've known Bob for several years now. He's just known to be a great leader in the industry. He's, coached to other contractors. He's got a great story, lots of lessons that he's learned. So, really appreciate you coming on today, and welcome to the show.
Great. Yeah, thanks, Eric. Appreciate you having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. So why don't you kind of just, again, give us a little background, little introduction to who you are and what you do.
Sure. As you said, I'm Bob Turner. I operate my business in the southern Maine area. Yeah. So I've been doing that this is, I guess, year 19 for me as a contractor. It's been kind of broken up. I started Turner Contracting and Remodeling with my dad back in 2005 and had about a 13-year run, and I got pretty sick of it. And we ran into a local GC home builder, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come and build up the remodeling renovation division for us? We don't offer that." So I jumped in with those guys for a few years and got a remodeling division built for them, and didn't love it. Didn't love, punching the time clock, or, how us entrepreneurs are. Yep. So stepped back out in 2021 as Turner Builders. And so this is year 3, and we're doing all right. We've done a bunch. I kind of started toward the end of COVID. So things are different. It's a different business climate now, Yeah. I find myself sometimes paying a little bit too much to get stuff done, or begging guys to come to my job sites, or, and even to some degree, the customers are even a little bit different. I can blame it on COVID, but it's just, I think that things just evolve or devolve in some instances. So, but we're still going strong. Last year we did, the first year back out, I did 1.6 million. This year, last year, 1.8. We'll be down this year, but almost by design, just because we got into some big jobs and they just seemed to eat our lunch. I just didn't love it. We weren't great at it, to be honest. And it was hard. We were trying to get crews, and I tried hiring guys, and we had to fire some guys, and then different subs didn't perform. And then some of that was on us. And so I said, let's pull back this year and do some things well, and feel like, let's come away from 2023 and go, yeah, all right, we don't suck at this. We're okay,
Sure.
Because I'll tell you, when you're dealing with other people that, they're an extension of you as a GC, and when they fall down, we fall down. And I always remind the guys that, hey, I'm the guy that has to go to the customer and explain why we didn't perform, and it's not you. So those are some of the frustrations I've had, but kind of retooling things right now and trying to move forward and go into 2024 like lean and mean. There's 2 ways to make more money, right? Charge more money and have fewer expenses. So I'm kind of attacking the expense side right now, to be honest, and just because it can get out of hand, right? Buy a truck, a dump trailer, or you got this, or you got that, and it's some office space, and it's just shelling out money all the time. And that's great if you're closing jobs and finishing, but when you're having trouble finishing and slamming the door and collecting that final check, things can get tight. So I like to say I've kind of made all the mistakes there are to make. I'm sure there's probably a few more to make. But it's, like I said, year 19 for me doing this. At the end of last year, I kind of hung a shingle as a coach. And I'm really drawing more from my Ironman experience. I've done a bunch of triathlon and endurance sport. Really coming from the mental toughness side of things. And, I guess if we narrowed down my ideal client, it would be an entrepreneur, not necessarily a contractor, an entrepreneur that's struggling with business and life. So I've had a lot of fun with that. It's kind of breathed some life into me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I can use all these stupid mistakes that I've made to help somebody else, and that's really where it's come from. I'm a guy that, and I push out, I help people. I like, hey, if a guy calls me and needs an hour, I'm gonna give it to him, you know, because I don't want him to make the same mistakes I've made over time. So that's kind of where that's at. I've got several clients now. I enjoy working with them one-on-one. I do a group coaching thing. I have a Facebook group called the Summit, and I go live in there once a week. And then we've got a paid group called the Peak, and that's been fun. We do a group call there on Thursday nights. So not looking to be an overnight success in coaching. I know it takes some time to lay down some tracks, but
Sure.
you know, just kind of coming into it. At first, I was like, who the hell am I to be, you know, telling people what to do or how to do it? You know, you should be a millionaire before you know, and all this. But I'm like, yeah, you know, at 54 years old, I do have a few things to offer and a few things to help people with. And I can take a guy in his 20s and 30s and say, hey, I tried that. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Try it this way. So, but that's in a nutshell, you know, where I am right now. What 2024 and 2025 will bring, but who knows?
Yeah. Well, let's maybe take a little step back, because I mean, you gave us a lot of insight there into who you are, and I mean, I can attest to, man, you're a super humble, willing to bend over backwards to help you type person, and you know, I just really admire that about you. But you know, coming out of the gate with 1.6 million in sales your first year, I mean, tell us a little bit about like what were the types of projects that you were targeting, and really like how has that changed over the years, or has it changed? Like where's kind of your sweet spot now, and you know, kind of how did that come?
Sure. We kind of jumped back into it, and I still had there's a benefit to having been in the business a while, right?
Yeah.
So when I jumped back out, it took about 2 Facebook posts, and all of a sudden I had people calling me and phone calls, and whoa, we got this, we got that. How am I going to get this done? So we just happened to get some looks at some bigger stuff early on. And it doesn't take too many $300,000 jobs to stack up 1.6 really. And it, you know, it sounds big, but I'm coming away from all that stuff going, you know, bigger isn't always better.
Yeah.
If you don't do it well. So, you know, it was kind of cool to say, hey, you know, we did 1.6. But I'll be honest, we didn't make and it had me looking at, all right, how do we retool this so that we don't have to do we happen to do 1.8 because we did continue to do bigger jobs. Coming into 2024 and really 2023, I'm saying, okay, what's our ideal project? And really what it is what we just started on today. It's about an $87,000 small addition bump out on the front of a place we actually built in 2008, repeat customer. And something that's got small footprint addition, some interior and exterior work, has all the disciplines, electrical, plumbing, painting, flooring, drywall, things where we can keep our subs engaged, because I still consider us a small contractor. So when we don't use our excavation guy for 6 months and I call him, he's like, gee, dude, I'm kind of tied up right now, you know?
Yeah.
But if we can kind of keep him going and not be his biggest guy, but definitely have a continued or a regular relationship with him, it's easier to get these guys when you need them. So we've done, you know, we're doing a small breezeway inside of a garage space today. We started that today as well. You know, it's $40,000-$50,000 by the time we're done with that, and some doors. We did a big rot repair project earlier this, late summer. It's been raining in Maine since about May. So everybody's getting water. So decayed wood repair, I've been able to do some of that stuff, and we've done it on a time and material basis. So I don't mind those jobs from time to time because they kind of control our downside, you know?
Sure.
So yeah, I would say stuff on the smaller to mid-size range seems to be working better.
So all residential, or any commercial in there?
This year it's been all residential. Last year we did about a $500,000 renovation of a orthodontist office, pre-existing relationship. I've done 4 different renovations for these guys. Back in 2012, I had my daughter at the orthodontist getting braces, and he said, hey, do you do small jobs? And so it's turned into a relationship where we've had, you know, a couple $1 million worth of work over the years, but they're done for a while. So we don't look for commercial stuff. If it was a small interior fit up, I'd be comfortable with that, but we're not a guy, we're not an outfit that's going to go build a big commercial building.
Sure. So one of the things I keep hearing you say, so, you know, from early days, and then just kind of how it's sort of continued to play out for you, is it's a lot of repeat work. So it sounds like you've got a lot of customers that, you know, you've had a relationship with and done work for over years. I mean, why do you think they keep coming back to you, and how have you continued to nurture that relationship?
I think it comes down to just being honest and being trustworthy. You know, I always feel like from a sales standpoint, and I always felt like I was pretty good at sales until I joined the contractor fight. And then I realized what I didn't know. And I started getting some training and realized, you know, the jobs that I really probably hadn't won because I didn't really know how to sell. But I lost my train of thought. What was your question again?
So how have you kind of really, you know, gotten the repeat
Oh,
customers?
sure. Yeah. I always tell people, probably if we never have 10 jobs going. Let's say we had 10 jobs going, we probably have worked for 5 of those people before. And I attribute it to just trying to do the right things. We don't nickel dime people with change orders. We got to get better at taking care of them, getting paid for change orders. And that's JobTread's helped me with that. We show up, we do what we say we're going to do. You know, if I require the subs, hey, if you're not going to be there, give me a call, you know, because if you're an electrician and you say, hey, I'll be there on Thursday, I tell the customer the electrician will be there Thursday. If you don't show up until 11 o'clock, my phone's ringing at 9:30. And so I try to get out ahead of that stuff. Hey, Mrs. Smith, looks like John's going to be, you know, 11. He had to go to the supply houses. Just communication. And we try to finish strong. That hasn't been the case in the last couple of years. We've struggled to finish, but I had a conversation with some people the other night. We finally wrapped up a job that took us way too long. And I said to them, I said, you know, you guys saw us struggle. And they said, yeah, we did. But, you know, and I said, I hope what you also saw was us not give up. And we kept grinding and we kept showing up and we did stuff ourselves when we had to. And they said, we totally saw that, Bob. We still trust you and respect you. And, you know, we know you have a lot of character and integrity. And that's the stuff that when I have to start apologizing for other people and checking in on that stuff, that's when I start getting pissed off, frankly, you know, and not having fun, because I'm the guy that goes in on the front end and says, hey, we do a great job. We clean up. We don't bring our kid to work. We leave our dog home. You know, the guy's not going to park on your leach bed, that kind of stuff. But then sometimes when a job, all of a sudden, a few of those things happen. I'm like, what are we doing here? You know, so my line to the guys is always, that's not what we're selling.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as, like I said, as long as I'm the guy that has to collect that check at the end and say, hey, did we do a good job for you? Is there anything else? Would you consider leaving us a review? I'm going to have a few things to say about it along the way.
Sure.
So I think people see that in me and they know that they can trust me. And we, like I said, we don't nickel dime. We don't overcharge. We're not hitting them hard on stuff. Yeah, so they call us again, like we're their guy, which is a good, you know.
No, that's great to have that, you know, just open, transparent, honest, you know, communication with the customer. I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, mistakes are always gonna, you know, they'll always come up, and it's all about how you deal with it, though.
Well, I'll have a conversation. One of the last things I say to people when we sign the contract is, look, we could sit here for another 4 hours and talk about this project, and we're not going to come up with the thing that's going to go sideways in the first 2 hours.
Yeah.
So when it does, we need to be able to sit back at this table, talk through it, not hate each other, and move on with the project. And a lot of times I think, a lot of times I think that's where things go wrong with a contractor and a homeowner. There's this adversarial relationship, if you will, right from Jump Street, right from signing the contract. And it doesn't need to be that way. If you just come in and say, hey, listen, I thought that was going to be that way. It looks like it's going to be that way. Can we have a conversation about it? More times than not, someone will meet you in the middle. You're going to get somebody every once in a while. So I don't care. You got to take care of it. Well, hey, I should have done a better job. But by and large, if you communicate with people, try to be honest, be respectful. Their house, it's a home. It's not a job site. That's what I always tell the guys. You're coming to a home. People live here. We need a porta potty. Don't smoke. That kind of stuff, you know. That matters to people. Notice none of those things were price related.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you're doing a really good job too of just setting the expectation of, this is, it's going to be real, and we're going to work together, through the good, the bad. At the end of the day, obviously they believe in you, and they have the confidence that you're going to be able to get them the outcome that, that they're hiring you for. So, I think that's a great approach. And, I think sometimes I see people come in and sort of oversell and, set just this huge expectation. And it's like, you're setting yourself up to disappoint, because again, you can't control, just the unknown, and situations are going to happen. So it's all about how you handle it. It sounds like you do a really great job with that.
I saw a great bumper sticker once. It said, this is not a dress rehearsal. We are professionals, and this is the big time. So, act as such. The homeowner's looking at you as the professional, and, step into that role and do a good job. Sometimes it's a really hard business.
Yeah.
There's so many moving parts and pieces, especially on the GC side. So many different dynamics, so many different relationships. Your people skills, your interpersonal skills have to be off the charts if you're going to be a GC, in my book. Yeah. And you're dealing with different subs, different personalities, sometimes different personalities in the same house. Husband's this way, wife's that way. They do good cop, bad cop on you, or one blames the other, and then I'm 54. I've seen a bunch of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. So talk to us a little bit about the structure of your team. I mean, I see a lot of people, there's obviously the great debate about, do I hire, my workers as employees, or do I, hire subcontractors? I mean, what, is it just you, or tell us, kind of about your team and then your workers?
So yeah, for sure. Last year we, I said to Ryan has been my PM guy, operations and project manager guy up until recently. We've actually moved him into the field. And I went to him, I said, Ryan, you're our best subcontractor. You're the most skilled guy that I know. And he doesn't really love to swing a hammer, but God bless him, he's doing it right now. He's building a breezeway for us right now. I said, I'll slide back and do the PM stuff that he was doing. And we've just kind of like had a little bit of a reset here, just because we're having a hard time finding good people and just hemorrhaging money on subs that frankly don't have the skill set to do it. So my vision was to have a couple of key employees, carpenter guys, that he could manage and, handle the jobs. He handled everything in the field. I could run the front end, sales, contracts, all the paperwork stuff, all the JobTread stuff. And then that would give me some bandwidth to do a little bit of coaching and do the things that honestly really light my fire. And we've done a bunch of that this year. The byproduct, how that has been, and I'll be honest, I think there's been some times where I haven't been as focused as I should be, right? Mm-hmm. And in turn, he didn't get the support that he kind of needed. So we're just kind of doing a little bit of a reset, but also the business climate at the same time is hard to get people, hard to schedule people, hard to get people to show up. So I said, let's fall back to this. Let's go in. We're in a little bit of a defensive mode. I feel as though we're kind of fighting our way out of the corner right now. And that's okay. I don't mind that. Makes you take a real good look at where all your expenses are going.
Absolutely.
And so we've kind of closed, plugged some leaks, if you will, on just cash flow and expense overhead just flying out the door, which feels good. And like I said, you can build something, but if you're not paying attention to the numbers or you're not dialed in, doesn't really work. So right now our structure is I'm doing sales, contracts, and PM stuff. He and I saw Ryan this morning on the job. He's got this one going. We've got a crew of 2 guys over doing a rot repair in the next town over. And we've got that addition also starting today with another couple of guys. So moving people around, seeing who's going to work where, combining some of those guys from time to time. Like next week, we're probably going to take the 2 guys over here and the 2 guys over here, bring them together and knock out the addition, get it framed, ready for subs. So we've had to be a little bit more creative about how we go at stuff. And that's okay. And I need to walk before I run with regard to, doing the stuff that lights my fire, fills my cup. I like helping people. So the coaching thing's like a natural for me, but I have to be careful to say that's not shiny object, right? Hey, you've got to pay attention to this. Ultimately, Eric, I'd love to have the contracting thing run at a level where I can be a couple of days a week into it, checking the boxes, making sure things are happening, and then doing either speaking or podcasting or coaching or whatever, group coaching, that kind of thing. The other three, and being in a position where my daughter's out in Dallas, so come out and see her a couple of times a winter, and got a friend down in Florida, and the Maine winters are long. I know you guys are suffering summer heat right now, but the Maine winters get long, and it was nice. Like last year, I got out of here a few times, and I think from a mental standpoint, it served me well.
I mean, I'd say, just knowing you and your innate, desire to help people. I mean, I would venture to say that might be some of the joy that you get out of doing sales as well, because that you're genuinely helping, create a better, home environment for people. And, is that, I mean, I assume you're doing all the sales. So is that, kind of what is it that, that you think drives you and helps you, do the sales, but not kind of feel like a pushy salesman, or that, it's the grind of the, every day, like, kind of what's your mindset there?
Simply this: I give advice like they were my family, and I tell them that. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. And, I've had people who are like, hey, we're going to do this. I'm like, how long are you going to own this house? They said, probably 3 more years. Like, I don't do this. Let's put some fires out on the outside. Let's tune this up, tune that up, and then sell it. Don't, is this a long-term play for you? Yeah, we're going to be here 15, 20 years. All right. That's a different conversation. I had some people yesterday that brought me in to look at it's probably a $500,000 remodel, but it's got a lot of hair on it, so to speak. And they said, how do we go at this? And I said, guys, the best thing we can do on this is clearly define the scope. And I actually talked to them a little bit about JobTread. I said, hey, we're using a software package where, if you wanted to do this project on a construction management level, we still set a budget. I can give you your own sign on. You can come in and look at the budget. Yeah, I'll work for a percentage on this. But what happens on jobs like this, where there's a lot of gray area on scope, what happens is I have to protect myself. So I put money on it. Somebody's going to lose. The contractor's going to lose, or the homeowner's going to lose. So anyway, we talked about that approach, and they seem to like it. So, I get into that kind of stuff from time to time, but I just say, guys, there's some things here I wouldn't do if I owned this house. And there's also a tipping point. I talked to them about that. I'm like, listen, you're talking about $500,000 in here. If we get to 3/4, we got to start having a serious conversation about, putting this thing in a dumpster and starting over. And you always get the face like, whoa, really? And I said, we can have this in a dumpster in about 4 hours, and you can start a project that doesn't, that's a different conversation, but you got to have a little more budget for it. But I hate to see somebody drop $500,000 into something and not get them where they want to go. I think they feel that I'm genuine about it. Like I would rather not have the job than us be in an adversarial position 6 months from now, when you're like, wait, we don't have any budget dollars to put those dormers on that you wanted. And that was what you wanted to see when you drove in the driveway.
So you, when you go in initially, I mean, are you doing like a design agreement and, basically charging for the design up front, or is this, kind of how's the actual contracting work for you?
Well, what my approach is, some of the sales training that we have, we don't always go out and just drive around in our trucks and price stuff like maybe a gutter guy or a roofing guy does. It's not as easy to put numbers on stuff. So I'll go have a conversation, and we, more often than not today, I'll ask somebody like, listen, is there a number here that, like if we started this project tomorrow, where would you tap out within 10 or 20,000? And it took them a minute, because no customer wants to say, hey, my budget's $500,000, right? And I'll say, the reason that I ask is because it's way easier for us to say, hey, listen, let's work backward from $500,000. Okay. And let's say that you want 10% contingency, but let's even try to, let's design to under 400, right? Yeah. So I came away from there yesterday and said, listen, let me do this. Let me spend an hour or so and I'll build out a budget sheet right in JobTread. Doesn't take long at all. And I'm going to call you back and I'm going to say, hey, you guys, the crazy, I'm at 750,000 and I'm not done yet. Or I can say, hey, listen, here's what I can offer you for $500,000. I think we could get your dormers on. I think we could, nuke the kitchen. We can do the stuff you wanted to do on the outside. We can remove the section over here, and we can build from there. Now, from there, I'm having a conversation with them where, like, am I your guy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If at that point you're still shopping me, hey, you've got your estimate from me. I'm going to be in the $500,000 range. Da 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 da. We can work from your budget. They've had a meeting with me a couple of times to interact, so hopefully I've kind of built a rapport. But from there, I say, listen, if we're going to go forward from here, I need 2,500 or $5,000 as a non-refundable design agreement, and we'll come away. These people, they happen to have plans already, but this covers my time to put together a very detailed scope, something we can hang our hat on, platform from which we can jump. And then in a project like that, we're meeting every week with the customer, like Tuesday nights at 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever works for you. I need one or both of you. That way, things don't get any more than 4 or 5 days old. The most successful projects I've had are when we're meeting weekly with the homeowner. Big projects, if it's something small, we don't need to do that. But things where there's some fluidity to it, something might change. They might want to move a window. Those conversations happen Tuesday night at 4:30, and we talk about it. Or that's the time when, hey, the plumber pissed me off. Can you talk to him? That kind of stuff. We just handle at that time. So,
sure. So are you selling these jobs as a fixed price, or are you using a cost plus model?
Mostly fixed price, but once, things that have so many unknowns on it, they're unique, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt, so why? I don't need to hit a home run on every single job. If I go into a job like that and we've got a $500,000 budget, I feel a lot better about my role as a construction manager, saying, hey, listen, guys, demo cost 1,500 more than we budgeted. We need to find 1,500 somewhere over there. And they appreciate that because they're trying to make buying decisions along the way. They might be buying furniture thinking they're on budget, and you don't tell them they're over budget until the end. That's when arguments happen. So mostly fixed price, but sometimes in the right situation, I'll do I call it construction management. Some people call it cost plus, but we put a percentage on materials and we get a fee. So
sure. So earlier you kind of alluded to trying not to have to use change orders. A lot of times I see contractors that, they just keep saying yes, and they can't draw that line about when, they need to get a change order so that they're not just taking money out of their profit. How, kind of what's your thinking along that? I mean, are you trying to nail out every single detail in the beginning before you get into the project? And, tell us kind of just how you've come to think about trying not to use change orders.
So we do a detailed scope, and I write that, build that right out in JobTread. I actually tie I don't have my contract hooked to JobTread yet, but we're going to do that this year. It's one of my goals. The proposal becomes part of our contract documents, and that's where that's where my scope lives. And one of the things I say in the contract, excluded anything not specifically outlined above.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there were gutters on here. Yeah, well, it doesn't say that I'm doing gutters, so we're not doing gutters. That makes the second part of this very easy. It's not easy to say, because if you're a person that doesn't like a potentially contentious conversation, but the homeowner comes in and says, gee, I thought we were getting a window there. Well, no, actually we don't. Well, I want a window there. Great, not a problem. We can do that. Give me a day to come back to you with a cost. I'll put a change order together. And if you want to do that, that's going to be this much money. Sign here, give us a check, and we're happy to include it.
Yeah.
That's not easy to say. It's way easier to go, oh yeah, we can do that. Or I've had somebody say to me, this just happened this summer. Ryan was doing some siding on the back of a house, putting a job back together. The guy said, well, maybe we ought to just do the siding all the way over to the slider so it matches. And he said, can you do that? And Ryan said, yeah, I can do that. Instead of stopping there, because he's now had training, he said, yeah, it's gonna take more siding and more time. So I'll have Bob pop over and see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I was able to go over and I just kind of went over and happy go lucky. I said, hey, Ryan was telling me you got some more work for us that you'd like us to do.
Yeah.
So what have I done there? I've said it's more work. I'm not just going to do it. He's like, well, you got to buy siding anyway. Yep. Now we have to buy more siding, and it's going to take Ryan 4 more hours to do that. It's going to be whatever, $1,200.
Yeah.
Sign here.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we're all right. We can just live with it.
And that's when I ran the construction company back in 2018, that was one of the biggest issues, is that our customer would more often than not try to get more work out of the subs, and just talking directly to the guys in the field saying, well, hey, can't you just extend that fence another, let's just wrap it around that side and kind of take it up a little bit. And like, the guys, one of our problems is at that point we were paying all of our guys time and material.
Right.
And so they were, sure, yeah, I'm getting paid anyways, I'll just keep going, not thinking about the impact on us and the company, and how we were losing out on this. And so now it's basically coming out of our our profit there. And it really took kind of 2 different key things. Is one, training the guys like you said, but we also moved away from paying them hourly and at a cost plus time material, and more getting a fixed bid from them so that we could lock in their rate. And then sure enough, when they realized they're not getting paid for the extra work, they immediately stopped and said, nope, let me get you back with the project manager, we'll get you a change order. I can't do that. And so it immediately fixed that big bleeding hole that we had with extra work just kind of walking out the door, and we didn't even know about it. We get billed for it. And but you can't run a business like that. You got to make sure that the customers getting what they pay for, but you can't do work for free. And I see a lot of people really struggle to say no and to have that change order conversation.
Yeah, one of the things that we've gotten better at, and it's partly due in part to working with you guys and processes and documentation, but also Tom Reber at the Contractor Fight hammering on us for training, right? And processes. And one of those things is a subcontractor agreement. And I mean, dude, if you can literally turn on ChatGPT and say, write me a subcontractor agreement for a general contractor operating in Southern Maine named blah, 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 blah. And it would spit out something that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
And that's where I started. Now, if we bring on a new sub, hey, sign here. It says, I won't bring my dog. I won't bring my kid. I won't discuss additional work with the customer without involving you. So I tell them, listen, if you want to big time me and you want to act like you're, Joe Schmo and say, oh yeah, we can do that. We can do this. We can do that. Be prepared to do it for free. If you exclude me from that conversation, because I can't bill it, and I won't bill it, and I won't pay you for it. And oh, okay. All right. So they very quickly say, hey, we ought to, I said, just use me as the bad guy. I don't care. Hey, Bob gets after me if I sell work that he doesn't know about. And I tell the customer, listen, ultimately I'm accountable to you as the manager.
Yeah.
Make this go. I don't want to come to you with a bill that you're not aware of. But when I step out the door and I leave the plumber or the electrician or the framer guy with the customer, and then all of a sudden they develop a relationship, things can get a little bit crazy. And I just tell them, if I don't know about it, I can't be involved in it. I can't get you paid. And that usually takes care of it.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I've not at all been perfect with that over the years. And I wish I had a nickel for every dollar I've given away. Because I didn't want to say that was kind of uncomfortable. They asked me to do more work, and now I just say, great. That sounds like, yeah, I think that's beyond our scope of what we had agreed on. If you don't mind, I'll just put a change order together for that. And if you want to go, hey, we can start that tomorrow. Sometimes it's great, but
not having a detailed scope that is agreed upon, signed off upon. I mean, that's it. Just you're opening yourself up to the he said, she said, you told me this, you said that. Like, it's just not a good way to run a construction business. And I learned that firsthand, time and time again, and totally agree with you. And and well said too about the importance of having solid agreements in place. It always gets me when we see a new contractor sign up and they don't have a contract for the customer. They don't have anything with their subcontractors. They're just paying cash. Like, not like, you cannot run a business that way. And it's like, some people just have this thinking that, oh, it's gonna, having to hire a lawyer, that's gonna cost me so much money and I can't afford that. No, it's a couple $1,000 bucks, is not the end of the world. But it's a cost of doing business. And the real thing that'll cost you money is when you get into a situation where now it's, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're, get tied up in legal. I mean, I've seen people that sunk their business, and it's man, it definitely, it's like going and, playing a football game without any equipment and without a helmet. Like, you can't do that.
Russian roulette. Yeah, we had a great job with a woman, $300,000 interior renovation of a condo, and friends on Facebook, like, loved Ryan, had nothing but great things to say about us. And we got down to the last bit of the job. She owed us $23,000 and decided she didn't want to pay it. And I had said to Ryan before we started the job, I said, God damn it, I'm using JobTread for every bit of this. I got the contract in there. I scanned it. I uploaded it. They did 2 change orders, signed them with JobTread. Boom. Now here's the adjusted contract balance, right? So when I had to go see an attorney because she just decided she didn't want to pay us and made up some crazy story about her floor, which is beautiful. And I was sitting across the table from an attorney at like the second largest firm in Maine. And he said he does a lot of construction litigation. He's got, you have your contract? Boom. He goes, what about the change orders? Boom, boom. He goes, wow, you got your shit together. I said, and unfortunately, it's not a ton of money in the big contract, legal world or whatever. But I'm not backing off because this is we're due that money, and I did my job. We did what we did, and we did it well. And it's somebody that's trying to get a pound of flesh out of us on the way out the door. So for the first time, I feel pretty protected, and I'm proud of us for how we, every picture uploaded to JobTread. I mean, so I could turn my laptop around and let an attorney look at it and go, here's when we said this, the daily log that is now, it's a timestamp. Like, hey, Ryan talked to you on this day about this, and he entered it. I wish we'd been a little better at that. But it's been great. And so even though you have all that stuff, it doesn't always go great. And when it doesn't, it's good to have it to fall back on.
Absolutely. I preach to everyone like the importance of, documenting everything, taking photos before you even start, along the way, every single day, documenting what has been done. And then obviously the completion photos, like, you never know when a customer is going to come back at you with some sort of a warranty claim, or, much less. I mean, I've seen people get blamed for, breaking something that they, weren't even in the same room. That wasn't, and it's like, you got to document everything. That's just going to, CYA, like, make sure that, the unforeseen, and you don't even know. I mean, it could be 6 months, 12 months later. And, it's so important to document those notes. And, again, that's, part of the reason why, again, we built JobTread is to make that easier for people, to make sure that you're capturing all that information and documenting it.
We got accused of she brought in a flooring consultant, never even told me there was an issue with any flooring, and there really isn't. And he said that we didn't put vapor barrier under the floor. And I had half a dozen pictures with vapor barrier under the floor uploaded to JobTread. So I was like, choo, choo, choo. There's your vapor barrier, Any questions? So it felt good, because in years past, I would have been like, I would have had to pull up some flooring to show her.
So talk to us about how do you, again, this is case in point, how, you did have trouble with the last payment, but talk to us about kind of the payment schedule, and how do you go about, collecting the payments? I mean, are you collecting a deposit, progress payments? Like, how do you structure that, and what's that look like?
For years, I took a small deposit, 10% or something like that to get going, because I wanted to be a good guy. And then, through just talking with, people in the industry and people at the contract to fight, in Maine, we can do a 30%, 1/3, right? So some of these jobs I've started to do a 1/3 at contract signing, 1/3 at commencement of work, 1/3 at the completion of work. I didn't love that because it kind of put some peaks and valleys in our cash flow. Normally what I would do is have payments tied to definitive points of completion. Like, let's say we were doing an addition. We'll get 20,000 on the signing of the contract, 20 when when you can see that the concrete is in and the concrete floor is in. Hey, 20 at the point where it's weather tight and ready for subs, ready for closing. And another one at paint or drywall. So we try to stay in lockstep with the homeowner. I don't want 50 $50,000 of their money that we haven't done work for, and I don't want them to have $50,000 of my money when we've got materials and things to pay off. So we try to stay pretty even, and that's worked out better. So, and I never because I didn't want to have a tough conversation. We'd be due a $50,000 progress payment, and I'd let it ride for 2 or 3 weeks because one little thing wasn't done. You know, and I now use the words substantial completion. You know, on substantial completion. You know, because let's say you have a $50,000 progress payment tied to flooring, okay, and the last piece of tile got broken in the bathroom, and flooring is really not complete, you know, and so if you have any integrity at all, you're like, we're not. I can't look at them in the eye and say flooring's complete because we got a broken tile here, or so I always ask for a little bit of flexibility, fluidity, some grace with that. I say on the front end, I said, this isn't perfect, but I'm going to ask for some reasonableness because we've got to pay subs. We've got to keep up with these guys. And just, you know, I may come to you and say, hey, listen, we've got one more day of flooring to do. I'm going to, you know, request that payment. Most people are pretty good about it. So, but I structure that and I call it out in the contract. So it's very, you know, it's very specific on the front end, and sometimes it's crystal ball stuff. But for the most part, it goes pretty well.
Yeah. You know, I'll never forget, you know, Carolyn Cromings, our contracting attorney partner here for JobTread, who provides contracts. She, you know, she taught me that, you know, just because, you know, you essentially have a payment schedule, if the homeowner doesn't make one of those payments, you can't necessarily stop work, you know, and this may be state by state, but like, you know, unless you have specifically written into your contract that if they miss a payment, then you have the right to stop work. You know, essentially, you know, a judge could come in and say, you know, you shouldn't have stopped work. You know, you've defaulted on the contract, and you know, it's just kind of a little interesting nuance to learn. But you know, having again a solid contract where you've crossed your T's, dotted your I's is so important to protect you in those situations.
Same thing with liens too, where like unless in some states, I'm not sure how it is in Maine, if you don't call it out that if you don't do this, then I can do that. I can lien the house. If you don't call it out in the contract, you can't lien the house. If you stopped work and didn't work there for more than 90 days, you can't put a lien. So there's some things you need to be aware of. Things that I've never really, I mean, I always say to people, hey, I can count the number of times on one hand I've actually had to look at the contract after we sign it, because jobs just go well and you just take care of business. But you do need to be insulated. You do need, you know, people are very litigious today, can be. And you know, it's getting back to what I started with. It's a different business climate.
Yeah,
it really is.
Man, this has been super insightful here, Bob. And you know, I'm kind of curious. So just in wrapping up, like, you know, do you have any, you know, advice that you would give other, you know, builders and contractors, you know, whether they're, you know, in their early days getting started, or even, you know, maybe they're still on the tools thinking about going, you know, full time, or, you know, maybe even a little bit farther along, like what, you know, kind of just a couple, you know, maybe some of the best advice you've had and things you wish you would have known, you know, back when you started.
Yeah, I would say communicate on a high level, under promise, over deliver. Oftentimes we do the opposite. We want to over promise and then we end up on delivering, or we couldn't rely on somebody to do that. I would say just communicate on a high level. Get sales training. I sold for years, and I remember sitting in the front row at the Mile High Profit Summit for Contractor Fight, and they were talking about the Shin Fu. That's their sales program, you know it. And I sat there and I was like, what is this all about? And then I literally said this to myself, oh, that's just sales stuff. I've got plenty of work. So if you don't continue to develop yourself and pour into you, you're just going to get to a certain level and you're going to stay there. And so I guess the last thing I would say is bigger isn't always better. Do what you do and do it well before you move on to something else. There's been times where I've just had a voracious appetite to do bigger stuff. And whether it's an ego or whether you want to say, hey, we did 1.8 or we did 2 million, big deal. Steve Shinholzer said to me, you made 1.8, great. How much did you keep? I go, ooh. So, you know, that's getting real. How much is in your checking account? Because
Yeah.
if you're doing contracting right, you're making money. There's no excuse to not make money. And that's what's frustrated me probably over the last couple of years, and why I'm still working at it and still tweaking it and still turning the dials. And I guess the other thing I would add is get into a trade group or an organization. We belong to the contractor fight, and there's just a community of people, 400 people in there that I could lean on at any time. I've gone to your JobTread Connect. I'll probably come out again this year. Learn, don't stop developing yourself, get the tools you need to be successful, and talk with people, because it can be a lonely existence as a contractor if you don't have anybody to lean on.
Absolutely. Man, that's great advice, Bob. And, again, really, really appreciate you coming on here. For anyone that, is interested in, continuing to have conversations with you, why don't you, kind of tell them about your Facebook group, or how they could reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. I'm all over Instagram. We're on Facebook as Turner Builders. You can shoot me a message there. I'm on Instagram as the same. I have a podcast called the Summit Podcast, where I started out as ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and I just kind of rebranded it as the Summit. But that's who I'm talking to, is people that are doing cool stuff, whether it's somebody that's doing an Ironman, or somebody that I've come to know and respect in business, like yourself, Eric. And I try to do that once a week. I don't always get there, but we have a Facebook group called the Summit, and you can just shoot me a message. I can invite you. We've got about 640 people in there, and I do a live in there every Thursday night right before my group. As I said, we have the peak. So I'm kind of building that out and taking some of the lessons I've learned in contracting and trying to walk before I run, not do too many crazy things. I like to do motivational speaking, talk about mental toughness. I got a lot of fun stories from the endurance events that I've been through over the years. Tales of adversity, if you will. And I'm just trying to parlay that into having some fun. I like to speak. It's fun for me. My goal initially this year was to speak somewhere once a month. I made it through April, and the last couple of months I've been, shit. So, I'm looking to go somewhere and speak. I don't charge right now because I'm still working on my chops, but that's fun for me. So, but yeah, if anybody wants to reach out, you can find me on social or Instagram or Facebook pretty easily. So
awesome. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you again for sharing all this amazing insight into how you've built your company, and the success that you've had through a lot of trials and tribulations. But you're doing a great job, Bob. I see it firsthand, and I just appreciate our friendship and all the good stuff that you're doing for everyone else out there. It's making an impact, and we appreciate you, Bob.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Eric, for having me on. I've enjoyed working with you guys and your whole team as well. Nobody better in customer service, my friend.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Builder Stories. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained valuable insights that can help you in your journey along the way. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a review. And as always, if you or someone you know has a story to share, please contact us at builderstories.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Eric Fortenberry, and remember, every builder has a unique story. Keep building yours.